All right, we had one small piece left to do in section 10.4. It's called percentiles. And it's related in some fashion to the quartiles that we did before. So quartiles marked specifically the 25% marking of our data, the 50% marking, and the 70% marking, 75% marking. Those quartiles, when taken sort of more broadly, create what are called percentiles, or we can look at percentiles. All right, so percentiles show a person's score relative to other scores. For example, a score in the 90th percentile means that approximately 90% of all other scores are lower than this score. Almost all standardized testing is done this way. When you get your paperwork back, it'll say the child's score is in the 13th percentile compared to peers their age across the state, across the school district, across the nation, however they're comparing the data. So when teachers talk about wanting to make sure that their students are in the 50th percentile, what they're saying is they want to make sure they're right in the middle of of all of it, right? If you're in the 50th percentile, it means you're on track-ish compared to your peers. 50% of the people did below, 50% of people did above you, you're right there in the middle. It's very interesting because it also means that you can never be in the 100th percentile. Because 100% of the people cannot be below anybody. Because you can't be below yourself. So even if you were the top grade of everything, you got a perfect score. And even if assuming no one else got a perfect score, you still wouldn't be in the 100th percentile. It's always 99th percentile and below. So that's an interesting one. The other thing that happens besides standardized test scores that show up like this are height weight charts at doctor's offices and head circumference. That's another one. So when children are born, little bitty ones, they like to measure their head circumference. That's a hot topic for me a little bit because I had a child who had an unusually large head at one point, and so they were tracking his head circumference and wanting to make sure that he was staying on a growth chart that made sense for his head circumference already. Height weight for this one over here, a big issue because she's quite tall, but she's quite thin. And they're trying to see that she's tracking along the same growth charts as they're looking at her height and her weight. But other children in my house were on the other end of the extreme where their weight was disproportionately high compared to their height. And they were looking at those charts, okay? So they're always looking at where they are in the percent of other children at that age level. And usually when you're doing it with children, they go down to the month, sometimes even to the week of their age, especially when they're itty bitty, to look at those weight charts. So if you take a look at an example like this, we've got Junior. He's ranked 50th in his graduating class. So that means if you were to put them in order, like we did with median, right? If you were to put all their grades in order from the top grade down to the lowest grade in the class, their GPAs, he would show up as 50th on the list. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we've got Liz. Liz is in the 75th percentile. So what does that mean? Well, according to the definition that we just saw, it means that 75% of the people in her class have GPAs lower than her. Or you could say that 25% have GPAs higher than her. Make sense? Okay. But our question is, because we're comparing these kids in slightly different fashions, which one's the better student or has the higher GPA? Okay? Because they're not comparing them in exactly the same way. So we have to decide, do we want to figure out what Junior's percentile is, or do we want to figure out what Liz's class rank is? And we can do either one. You just get to pick. So which one would you like to do? I'm going to do both. Which one would you like to do first, Kaylee? Junior. We're going to do Junior first. Okay. So we know that Junior is 50th in line. So how many people are below him? Okay, say it again. 325. Close. 325 something. He's not at the 50th percentile. He's 50th in the list. Not 49. That's how many. 49 people are above him. How many people are below him? How many? Okay, how did you get it, Emma? Okay, there's 325 people. He's 50. So 50 and above, right, he represents the 50th person. All the other people, which is 325 minus he and the other top 50 people, would be subtracted off. There's 275 people. So 275 people are lower, we'll say have lower GPAs. Okay, so how can we figure out what percentile he's in? Well, we can do what we did with proportions and percents. So we have 275 out of the 325 students, and we would want to find out what percent that is out of 100. So grab your calculator. I've got 325x equals 27500, and I would divide. What percentile is he in? Did you get a value, Laura?
I got 78.57,
So yeah, 5.57. We'll go with they always do whole numbers for percentiles. So he'd be in the 79th percentile.
84.6.
All right, somebody double check. I did the other direction on my notes. I don't even have this one written down. So let me check. You got 84.6. Check again. Maybe you have your numbers reversed somewhere. 84.6 means 85, right? So 85th percentile.
And do we have to show like that kind of work on our?
Nope. There's other ways to do it. You could do it in a different fashion. You're going to show something, but.
Yeah.
So Junior's in the 85th percentile. Liz is in the 75th percentile. Whose grade's higher? Junior, right? 85% of the people are below Junior, whereas only 75% of the people are below Liz. So this is one way to do it. But Kaylee requested to see the other way too. So we'll do the other way as well. So let's say now that we want to turn Liz's into the class rank. Okay, so Liz is in the 75th percentile, right? So 75% are below Liz. But class rank measures how far you are from the top, not how far you are from the bottom. So it might be a bit easier to just say really that 25% are above Liz. Does that make sense? Because eventually what we're trying to figure out is how far she is from the top, not really from the bottom. So 25% are above Liz. So we've got 25% of 100. And we have 325 students, and we want to figure out where Liz is. So we can cross and multiply here as well. So 100x equals, what's 25 times 325? So 80.
8,125.
Good. And if we divide by 100, we get, well, the value we get is 8125. What does that mean for Liz?
She was ranked 80th, 81.
81, 82, something like that, right? So what this actually means is there are, and we'll round to normal, 81 people higher than Liz. So she's 82. I should say there's 81 people higher than Liz, and Junior's one of them. So she is 82. So Junior is higher because he's 50. Right? He's 50 on the list. She's 82 on the list. Is that okay?